What's going on, boxing fans? It's Full Count Out Boxing coming at you with another boxing video for the boxing heads and the boxing man. I want to talk about, you know,
This is a
boxing.
Caesar Beat production.
There's so many guys that I've watched over these many years, 40 years of watching boxing, and you can't remember it all. You forget a lot of details that went on with the fighters back then. But one thing you gotta remember is that all these fighters that come up in the same era, they know each other. They fought each other either in the amateurs or, they came across each other in the Golden Gloves. So they have a lot of close relationships from when the casual boxing fans see them. They think that these fighters are just meeting for the first time, but no, they actually know a lot about each other. But I want to take time to talk about Vernon Forrest. Vernon Forrest, he was a two-division champion, and he made a great impact on boxing. Not just for his fighting, but just for the relationships he cultivated with other fighters who loved him. So he was a fascinating fighter. Vernon Forrest he had 41 wins. He had 3 losses, and he had 29 KOs. He was 6 feet tall. He had a 73-inch jab, and he was from Atlanta, Georgia. He was the first fighter to beat Sugar Shane Mosley when he was pound for pound number 1. He beat Ike Quarterly, who knocked down Oscar De La Hoya, who was a bad motherfucker back in the day during that time. And he also beat Carlos Boldemir, who beat Zab Judah. Boldemir lost to Floyd Mayweather, and he lost to Vernon Forrest. And he also beat Sergio Mora, who is a dickhead analyst at the Zone right now. So Vernon Forrest, he was an interesting fighter. He went to the Olympics, and but he got food poisoning and he didn't win, and he struggled to find his way, and but being in Atlanta, because Atlanta's a small community, he was sponsored by a lot of good fighters and looked out for him, like Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield looked out for him, and him and got him in there with Ronnie Shields, and Ronnie Shields, seen Vernon Forrest, and he put him to the test, put him on the pads, and he wanted to see him, and he had the great legendary champion Pernell Whitaker there watching this test that Ronnie Shields put him on them pads, and he gave it a go, and he asked Pernell Whitaker what did he think about Vernon Forrest, and Pernell Whitaker said he's a world champion. So Ronnie Shields brought him in, trained him up, used him as a sparring partner for Pernell Whitaker and Midrick Taylor at the time. So he sparred with the greats and learned a lot. And Ronnie Shields being out of Houston, that would tell you that that's where the Charlo twins grew up. And they grew up in the gym where Vernon Forrest was working with Ronnie Shields, and Jamal Charlo. Remember Vernon Forrest saying that he was a great guy. He said he took them in. He said that Vernon Forrest would take them to the mall and buy them shoes, and which reminds me of something Andre Ward did for them too. he gave them, boxing equipment so they could train, and boxing shoes so they can train also. So that's what I mean by the relationship between these fighters. You know, they're helping each other out constantly. Just like Tank grew up in Baltimore. I'm sure he knows a lot of fighters that helped him out. So they get sponsored by different champions, while they're growing up. So the Charlo twins remember Vernon Forrest because they watched him in the ring, watched him spar, and just watch him putting his stuff together. So that's why they, have such a strong work ethic. Because from what Buddy McGirt said, that Vernon Forrest he would shadow box for 10 rounds a day. And he said if he could get anybody else to shadow box for 10 rounds a day, they would be a superstar just like he was. And they said he was totally dedicated to winning, and that's what was so special about him. He was just a very driven type of champion, and he had a big heart. Helping out Charlos, and Holyfield said that he tried to, help Vernon Forrest smooth over his rough edges, and which says like he was a hothead. Like if you did something to him, he would do it right back to you. And Vernon was, even though he wasn't no mean guy, but from what I get from it, he would, what I'm saying, you just didn't want to mess with him because he'll probably, beat your ass, probably pretty much tear your ass up. And I remember the Mayorga fights. He lost twice to Mayorga, but Mayorga was like some kind of super strong monkey, man. He was like a gorilla, back then. And I don't know if he was juiced up or what, but Vernon would hit him with the kitchen sink, man. He wouldn't budge, and he would just, just run through Vernon's shots. And but that was one dude that just had his number, and Vernon Forrest always had Sugar Shane Mosley number. So this is how we know, even from other past fights, though, that the triangle theory don't work. It's just style make fights. And, this was an era where that definitely was true. And so Oscar De La Hoya, he was the money man back then, and Vernon Forrest was chasing him, and Floyd back then was chasing Oscar De La Hoya money. But Oscar didn't want to give Vernon Forrest a shot. He went to Al Heyman, and Floyd and Al Heyman working together. So Al Heyman got Floyd Mayweather the shot after Oscar De La Hoya. And of course, the rest is history. And Vernon Forrest in 2009, he had his jewelry on while he was out. And, I was living in Atlanta during that time myself. So Atlanta was pretty rough in certain spots, and you can get robbed, right? So especially if you're wearing, any kind of jewelry, look like you come from money, people get robbed all the time. I lived off Old National. Pretty sure a lot of you guys know what that is. If you ever went through Atlanta, that's the, it's kind of like the hood road or whatever. But he got robbed by two guys, and they shot him as he turned his back because he was trying to run them down. As he turned his back, they shot him and killed him. But the crazy thing is, the guy recognized them after they shot him, and they was, they regretted shooting him, but they didn't know he was a champ, Vernon Forrest, until they shot him, and then they realized it. And I remember him being shot down there in Atlanta in 2009. I was just like, he was just coming up. He was just getting his his mojo back, you know, and he was gonna be something special. He was gonna, he was gonna at least win a couple more times. He was gonna upset somebody, but he never got the opportunity. It was just his time to go. So touched so many lives, and but I remember Vernon Forrest. He was a damn good fighter, and man, he's surely gonna make it to the Hall of Fame. He hasn't made it into the International Hall of Fame yet, but they said something about some kind of voting judgments going on over there. But I know he'll make it in the American Boxing Hall of Fame because he was just that good. So that's pretty much all